Brookhaven, Tennessee, was the kind of town where time didn't move so much as circle back on itself. The same faces filled the pews on Sundays. The same gossip drifted through the diner over coffee and biscuits. It was the sort of place where people said nothing bad ever really happens here, until the night Claire Donovan vanished. In the first few days after her disappearance, the town was wrapped in disbelief. They'd lost things before. Jobs, crops, sometimes patients, but never one of their own. Not like this. Claire Donovan was, in every sense, a fixture of Brookhaven. 38 years old, a local attorney with a reputation for being both fierce and fair. Her office sat in a small brick building near the courthouse square, with her name painted in neat white letters across the window. Claire Donovan, attorney at law. People came to her for divorces, custody disputes, wills, the kinds of legal problems that often hid heartbreak underneath. She handled them all with quiet compassion. Claire never raised her voice, said her assistant Marcy Hill, later in an interview. Even when a client was yelling or crying, she just steadied you. She lived alone in a small blue Craftsman on Riverbend Road. Never married, no children. Her parents had passed away years earlier, and her younger brother Ryan had recently moved in for a while, after losing his job in Memphis. By all accounts, Claire lived a calm, simple life. Until she didn't. Sunday, March 14, 2021. The last night anyone saw Claire alive. It had rained earlier that day, leaving the streets slick under the glow of the courthouse lights. Claire stayed late at her office, finishing a custody file. At 8:27 p.m. she emailed Marcy. Finally wrapped up the Jensen file. See you tomorrow. Don't forget to remind me about the Latham meeting. At 8:31, the security camera outside the building caught her walking to her car, a silver Subaru Outback. She was carrying her briefcase, looking tired but calm. That was the last image of her alive. By morning, her Subaru was found parked neatly behind Harlan's Hardware, 2 blocks from her office. Inside were her purse, keys, phone, and briefcase. Everything in order except Claire. Brookhaven woke to sirens, whispers, and disbelief. Dozens of volunteers gathered at the town hall. Sheriff's deputies canvassed the streets. Search dogs combed the riverbank. But there were no footprints, no witnesses, no trace of struggle. Detective Eli Sanderson, who'd been with the Brookhaven Police Department for 15 years, took the lead. He was methodical, the kind of man who still carried a notepad instead of using his phone. At first glance, Sanderson later said, it looked like she vanished into thin air. That never happens, which means something was being hidden. The working theory was a random abduction. Brookhaven sat near a major interstate. A drifter, maybe, or a passing truck driver. That idea terrified everyone because it meant anyone could be next. But within a week, that theory began to crumble. Claire's assistant, Marcy, mentioned something odd during her interview. 4 weeks before her disappearance, Claire had seemed distracted. She'd been taking phone calls behind closed doors, sometimes leaving the office abruptly. She looked scared almost, Marcy said. And there was this man, Jeff something, who came by one afternoon. They argued. She told me not to let him in again. That man was Jeff Latham, a local contractor and former client. He'd recently gone through a nasty divorce, one that Claire had handled on behalf of his ex-wife. Latham was known around town as loud, charming, and temperamental. He also had connections, city council contracts, county building projects. When investigators spoke to him, he was calm, polite, claimed he hadn't seen Claire in weeks. His alibi, dinner with his girlfriend in Nashville, checked out. Still, Detective Sanderson had a gut feeling. He was too smooth, too ready with answers. Then came the second name, Ryan Donovan, Claire's younger brother. Ryan had been living with Claire for about 4 months. 32 years old, unemployed, and known to drink too much. Neighbors recalled hearing arguments late at night. Not violent, but heated. One, Mrs. Albright, who lived across the street, remembered seeing Claire crying in her car one evening. She just sat there for a long time, Albright said. Lights off, engine running. Like she couldn't make herself go inside. When police questioned Ryan, he was nervous but cooperative. He said he'd been home that night, fell asleep watching TV, and woke up to find her car gone. He even joined search parties. But something didn't fit. Phone records showed Claire had called him at 8:42 p.m., 11 minutes after she left her office. The call lasted 4 minutes. That was the last activity from her phone. 2 weeks into the investigation, forensics analysts cracked the password on Claire's work laptop. What they found changed everything. Buried among case notes and client records was a hidden folder labeled Project Sunlight. Inside were dozens of files, encrypted emails, and scanned invoices tied to none other than Jeff Latham. Claire had uncovered proof that Latham had been embezzling funds from city contracts and funneling money through fake companies. She was preparing to hand over evidence to the district attorney's office. In one email, dated March 13th, she wrote to an anonymous contact, "If you're right about this, it's bigger than I thought. But I need the full document trail before I go public." That anonymous contact, police soon learned, was Ryan Donovan. When confronted, Ryan's story started to unravel. He admitted that he'd known about Latham's corruption. In fact, he'd helped Claire gather evidence, digging through files she'd asked him to scan. But what Claire didn't know was that Ryan had reached out to Latham directly, threatening to expose him unless he paid $50,000 for silence. It was blackmail. Claire found out the night she disappeared. Phone records, texts, and a deleted voicemail pieced together what happened. She confronted Ryan, furious that he'd jeopardized her case and her career. The argument turned physical. Ryan later claimed he just wanted her to stop shouting. She never got up again. 3 months after Claire vanished, on June 22nd, a hiker discovered a shallow grave off County Road 19, 5 miles outside town. Dental records confirmed the remains were hers. The cause of death: blunt force trauma to the skull. Investigators searched Ryan's car and found traces of blood on a tarp in the trunk. A fragment of her necklace was wedged beneath the back seat. When Detective Sanderson confronted him, Ryan broke. "I didn't mean to do it," he sobbed. "She was all I had left." He confessed to striking her during the argument, panicking and hiding her body in the woods. He'd spent the next morning pretending she was missing, joining search efforts, giving statements, even comforting her friends. Ryan Donovan was arrested and later convicted of second-degree murder. Trial was short. The town was quiet, and in every corner of Brookhaven, people asked themselves the same question: how could someone so kind, so careful, meet such an end, and at the hands of her own brother? After the conviction, Claire's law office was left untouched. Her desk still held her favorite fountain pen and a framed photo of her parents. Flowers and handwritten notes filled the doorstep. The sign over the window, "Claire Donovan, attorney at law," faded slowly in the sun. At her memorial service, held in the courthouse she'd worked in for 15 years, the district attorney called her the conscience of Brookhaven. Detective Sanderson sat in the back row. He never forgot her case. "We all thought it was a stranger," he told a reporter later. But the real danger was sitting at her kitchen table. In the years since, Brookhaven has tried to move on. The river still glints in the morning light. Children still ride bikes past the courthouse. But the story of Claire Donovan remains a wound the town carries quietly. Her scholarship, the Claire Donovan Legal Aid Fund, now helps women in small towns pursue law careers, just as she once did. And every spring, on the anniversary of her disappearance, people leave flowers at the edge of County Road 19, near the place where she was found. They don't speak much while they're there. They just stand in silence, listening to the wind through the trees. Because in Brookhaven, everyone learns something the hard way. Evil doesn't always come from the outside. Sometimes it comes from the people we love most.